Today on the Geek Lab,
we say happy 30th birthday
to Windows 95. Here's Windows 1.0 in 85. And here's 2.0 in 1987. Looks pretty much the same. Then, in 1990, we had Windows 3.0, which brought around, well, a heck of a lot more things, and it looked a lot more palatable as well. And then in 1992, along came Windows 3.1. They got imaginative with the numbers back then. Anyway, it looked quite similar to 3.0, but it was an awful lot better. And then, on the 24th of August 1995, this happened. Microsoft spent $300 million on marketing, and it paid off because people were lining up in the streets. 4 million copies of Windows 95 was sold on its first day. And in 1995, that was a heck of a lot for a piece of software. And then for the rest of its life, it went on to sell 40 million copies as well. In fact, the product went on to live between the 24th of August 1995 to December 31st, 2001. That was a pretty good run. It introduced features like the taskbar, and then support for things like CD-ROM, networking, and enhanced multimedia out of the box. But the main thing that Windows 95 was known for was the Start menu, and it's endured today even through Windows 11. It brought about a whole nother way of thinking about things. No longer did you have to just minimize your applications and these things would just lie around at the bottom of your screen. You couldn't easily organize your applications into menus. You had to deal with the program manager, which just wasn't a logical kind of experience. The Start menu brought everything together. With Windows 95, there are so many things that we just take for granted today. For example, in Windows 3.1, we could only use file names with 8 characters in them. There was also 3 characters for the extension, but Windows 95 brought 250 character file name support. It was also a fully fledged operating system. By that I mean that every version of Windows before Windows 95 was actually a shell that ran on top of the 16-bit operating system, which was MS-DOS. This was a fully fledged 32-bit multitasking operating system. Now you'll probably be familiar with the recycle bin. Well, the recycle bin started off here in Windows 95. Before then, if you ever deleted a file, it would be gone. Forever. With Windows 95, you put it in the recycle bin, and if you discovered that you later on wanted your copy of Weezer's Buddy Holly back, just press a button and it's back again. Although it wasn't installed by default, later on in Windows 95 versions, Internet Explorer was there. Initially you had to install TCP/IP networking as well because, well, it wasn't fully configured. Because many users were still using Windows 3.1 applications around the time of Windows 95's launch, it was clear that many applications were still 16-bit or even worse, DOS based. So the interesting thing was you had full backwards compatibility with MS-DOS applications, and you could even run the program manager of Windows 3.1, so you could make the shell look just like 3.1. Either way, it was pretty smart of Microsoft to keep that level of backwards compatibility. You could even run full screen DOS applications in a window in Windows. Mind blown. So looking back to the beginning of Windows 95, I can get an appreciation for exactly what Microsoft were wanting to do. They were wanting to put everything into the future. They'd been doing the same old thing with versions 1 through 3.11, and it was basically all DOS based. 16-bit operating system. Here was the chance to break away, fresh new interface, still with some backwards compatibility, but in a totally new way. Windows 95 set the trend for Windows forever. No wonder they were so happy about it. Love it or hate it, Windows 95 brought computing into the houses of millions of people, and it brought people onto the internet in ways that we just didn't have before. So, I guess, happy frickin' birthday, Windows 95. That's it for this video. I do hope you've enjoyed. If you have enjoyed, please consider subscribing. I've got lots of good stuff for you, I promise. You can also catch me on Facebook, Twitter, and every other good place of the internet. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you soon for another Al's Geek Lab.